when it is Super Bowl week, sometimes you have to make the calls for the big guns. Sometimes you got to make the call for the guys who they're going to speak the truth a little bit. They're going to go out there. They're going to say what they want. They're going to say what they don't care. And that's what I did today. Even though he is repping the red of a team that I love personally, Toronto FC, I want to talk. I'm going to jump right into it. As Ray is a person I've talked to. We've even done some stuff when it was on Dean Blundell. Now we're both a part of the Crier Media family. Check it out. But the reason why I wanted you on here, more or less than your Lego collection, which we can get into if we feel like it, is the talk of everyone referring to this Chiefs dynasty as what people are making it. People are how they're saying it already is a dynasty when I don't know what your opinion is on it, but mine is simple, that you got to win 3 and say like a 5-year period to be in that conversation. So my question for you is, what does winning a second ring do for the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday?
First of all, I got a wicked Lego collection. Pirates of the Caribbean, Sesame Street, Winnie the Pooh. So, I mean, the Disney castles. Like, if you want to get into it, we can get into it. But the reason you brought me on is talk about football.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. The Kansas City Chiefs do not have a dynasty. They're not on the way to developing. Well, they may be on the way to creating a dynasty. A second Super Bowl ring here does not make them a dynasty. Let me reverse the question, but I'm going to answer it. You don't have to. A lot of people will tell you, oh, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick built the 20-year dynasty in New England. There was no 20-year dynasty in New England, Griff, and
Nope.
A lot of people and a lot of Patriot fans can't accept that. The New England Patriots, a team that you and I admittedly both love and cheer for, went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. So yeah. I say there was the first dynasty, which in my opinion was the Teddy Bruschi, Rodney Harrison, Willie McGinnis dynasty. And then there was the second dynasty, which was 100% the Tom Brady dynasty. So, no, if the Kansas City Chiefs would have won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they would have beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Patrick Mahomes could have shaken off, the voodoo that is Tom Brady to him, and they'd be going for their third Super Bowl in 4 years, then absolutely we would be calling this a dynasty. At the moment, though, the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to build towards a dynasty. What a Super Bowl will do, whether they win or lose. Actually, I should put this on the table. Yeah. What going back to this Super Bowl has done for Kansas City has anointed them as the next big thing in the NFL. They are the New England Patriots of the last decade or 2 decades. Will they have the sustainability of going 20 years? Probably not. I think what we saw in New England is going to be very rare, but what I think we're looking at now is we are in the era of the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, yes. They could very well be on their way to becoming a dynasty. But this Super Bowl and a win in this Super Bowl does not declare the dynasty, because if they lose this Super Bowl and they become Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy Reid become 1-2 and 1-3 respectively in the Super Bowl, I don't believe that that's going to tarnish the reputation of the Kansas City Chiefs. So if losing is not going to tarnish the reputation, well, winning will increase the reputation, while it will give a lot of credibility to maybe some of the Patrick Mahomes retractors. And I hope that you and I can have that discussion today, because I have a lot to say about that. But to answer your question, a win does not make them a dynasty. It puts them on track. But if they do not return to a Super Bowl, nobody should be looking at this run as a dynasty run by the Chiefs.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, you can look on this run, like all these teams that in the 2010s, it was, here comes the next big thing. It's like the Seattle Seahawks in 2013 when they ran the table. They won the Super Bowl. 2014, look, we all know what happened in the end. They were this close to winning it, but they called the wrong play. As it goes to the retractors, like, I'll be honest with you, more than the Kansas, like, I don't even hate the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't have a problem with them. Like, I like Patrick Mahomes. I like Travis Kelce. There's other guys on their football team too that I like. They have some good guys on their offensive line, like Joe Thuney, shout out former Patriot, Creed Humphrey, Chris Jones. There's these guys that I like. My biggest problem with this is the media painting a picture that they never did for New England when New England was doing all that they did. Because let's remember this. When you go back 20 years ago 2001, Patriots were not supposed to win that game. They had no business winning that game at all. And what happened that day? You heard the Rams talking about a dynasty is going to start tonight. They just predicted the wrong dynasty starting. Instead of their dynasty starting, it was the Patriots. Only because then 2 years later, Patriots had a dogfight against the Carolina Panthers and then a dogfight against Andy Reid's Philadelphia Eagles the next year later. So the 2000s dynasty, completely agree with you. That was 100% defensive. Also, I like to give some love to guys like Richard Seymour and Lawyer Malloy as well. 2010, Brady, Gronk, Amendola, Edelman. I'll even throw Chris Hogan's name in there. Those guys. But then at the same time, too, with the 2010s, I got to give love to guys like Devin McCourty, Matthew Slater, and Dante Hightower. Because without Dante Hightower, we don't have two of those Super Bowls. As it goes for the retractors, it's like I said, I don't hate this team. I don't have a problem with Kansas City. It's just the media that when they say the Chiefs are doing this remarkable run, they're doing this, this, and this, it's just like, look at what the Patriots did from 2011 to 2018. And for a lot of people, I feel like they just like to sweep that one under the rug because New England's no longer this powerhouse in the NFL now that they're back to being like a mid-level team. So that's my problem with it more than anything is the portrait the media is painting of Kansas City rather than the Kansas City Chiefs as a team as a whole.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit.
Okay.
I think the Patriots got their love, and I think that they had their retractors. See, I remember saying this to you way back in the day when you first brought me on the old rendition of your podcast, back when I was the host of Dear Pats Nation. So we're going super old school on this one, Griff.
Yes.
And I said to you, let the haters talk, because when they stop talking about you, that's when it's a problem. And that is what we are dealing with now. I'm going to disagree with you because of this, because the Kansas City Chiefs are getting all the love this week, and it's deserved love. I have actually begun to have a rooting soft spot for Kansas City. Not in the sense that I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, not in the sense that, oh, I'm jumping the Patriots bandwagon and jumping over to there. But let me explain this to you, because I'm watching Kansas City go through a very familiar story that, as a New England Patriots fan, a New England Patriots commentator, a New England Patriots content creator, a common story that I was going through. Prior to the Super Bowl, do you know what I heard? I didn't hear about Patrick Mahomes. I didn't hear about Travis Kelce. I didn't hear about the Kansas City Chiefs. I heard about Josh Allen. I heard about the Buffalo Bills. I heard about the Dallas Cowboys. I heard about the Philadelphia Eagles. I heard about Jalen Hurts. Why did I hear about them? Because, see, as much as people say they love dynasties, as much as people say they love generational players, as much as they say they love greatness, they don't. Because in 2019, the 2018-2019 season, but in 2019, AFC Championship, Arrowhead Stadium, Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, there wasn't a single person that wasn't a New England Patriots fan cheering for the New England Patriots, because Patrick Mahomes was finally going to topple the evil empire. They were the next big thing in the NFL, and people couldn't wait. It didn't happen, but the next year they started getting a little bit better. Then they didn't topple Tom Brady again, but then they beat the Patriots, and they're now becoming the top thing. And now it's all reversing. Now people want to see the Chiefs fall. Now I got to deal with the NFL is rigged. The referees got Kansas City into the championship. And I saw the gall, Griff, the gall of Patriot fans on Twitter after that AFC Championship game saying, oh, I wish the Patriots got these calls. Like the roughing the passer call against Frank Clark, the offside against D Ford, a call that's never called in the NFL. Yep. Brady got the benefit of the doubt. And yet I never turned around and said, oh, the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl because of the referees. No Patriots fan did. And yet we had to deal with 31 other fan bases talking about, oh, the referees, oh, Tom Brady, the old gifs, right? The old yep. memes of the Belichick and Brady high-fiving the referees, right? And now Kansas City Chiefs fans are going through it. So Patriot fans, shame on you for putting back the same hate that we dealt with for years. Here's the problem, Griff. People don't appreciate greatness. And I really encourage everybody. I'm not sure when this one's coming out, But are we live right now?
We are not live, but this will be
Okay.
released. So just for context, folks, it's Tuesday, February 7th. This will be released Wednesday, February 8th.
What time?
Oh, whatever Megaphone tells me, but I assume probably by tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so tonight, Wednesday, February 8th, 7 p.m., live on the Crier YouTube channel, you can watch Who's Got Next. And I'm going to be calling out my co-host, Mario from Hashtag Sports, a Buffalo Bills fan, because while the entire universe showed their love and appreciation for Tom Brady after retiring, all he's done is tried to discredit Brady. He's not the GOAT. There's a difference between the most accomplished and the greatest of all time. And I'm going to call him out on it. But I'm also going to call out a lot of fans in general because I wrote this about Patrick Mahomes the other day. Somebody wrote out, if Patrick Mahomes wins a ring, I'm going to refer to him as the GOAT, yada, yada, yada. And I said, this is the problem with professional sports.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm on record of saying it, is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's probably going to be the best quarterback in the NFL for the next 10 years. This is Mahomes' league. Don't fool yourself. I got fooled. I jumped on the Josh Allen train. Don't fool yourself. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. The torch has been officially passed from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes. How about instead of us having these stupid GOAT arguments? Because what happens is when you have a GOAT argument, you force people to pick sides. You're either team Mahomes or you're team somebody else, or your team Reed, your team this, your team that. Just appreciate what you have in front of you. And see, now people don't want to appreciate Patrick Mahomes. It's only a matter of time, Griff, until Rob Parker is talking about how, Patrick Mahomes is one of the luckiest quarterbacks in the world. He had one of the greatest offensive minds ever, the greatest tight end to probably ever play the game.
Yeah.
Because what happens if Patrick Mahomes doesn't win a Super Bowl after Andy Reid retires and Travis Kelce retires? Because he'll be playing long after those two are done with football. Yeah. People are going to turn around and say, oh, look, couldn't do anything without them, right? Which I'll turn around and say Andy Reid couldn't win a Super Bowl without Patrick Mahomes. However, I don't want to get into these conversations because I want to sit back as a football fan and I want to appreciate Patrick Mahomes. And I think there was a lot of people, not you, Griff, because you're a Patriots fan, not me, but I think there was a lot of people. I'll put myself guilty Brady's last 3 seasons because I was bitter when he left New England. There was a lot of people, though, who spent a lot of Tom Brady's career hoping for him to fail and missed out on what a run, whether you want to call him the GOAT or not, that's not even the conversation I want to have. You missed out on one of the most spectacular careers ever because you wanted to hate. I refuse to do that with Patrick Mahomes. That's why I don't like getting into the dynasty conversations. I think it puts unnecessary pressure on a team. It puts an unnecessary cloud on a team. We all know what a dynasty is. It's multiple championships in a short period of time. There are people I know that'll argue the Patriots never had a dynasty. Because you talk to people like my dad who go back to the Oilers, go back to the Islanders, go back to the Montreal Canadiens. It's 4. That's a dynasty. It's 4. That's the number. And if you don't win 4 in a row, you can't even lose in a season. If you don't win 4 in a row, you're not a dynasty. So, I don't want to get in that argument because then you're discrediting teams that probably deserve the credit they get. But I just think that Kansas City Chiefs fans, and I messaged a friend of mine, the Brit Chief. He's on Arrowhead Abroad, and he's got his own show. And his name is Brad. And I messaged him, and I was like, because I told him 2 years ago, I said, just wait. You're going to go through what I went through with Tom Brady. You're going to go through what I went through with the Patriots, where people are going to listen. This Kansas City, I know I'm taking a lot of your time, but this Kansas City Chiefs team was counted out all season.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And they won the AFC, right? Maybe they wouldn't have, who knows, but they won the AFC. They hosted the AFC East or the AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium again. And they're going back to the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes did it on one leg. You're talking about one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game. And I mean that, when I talk about top tier coaches, it's Bill Belichick, Andy Reid. That's my top tier. And the modern day coach.
Yeah.
We can get into the Lombardis and all that. But when we talk about modern day coaches, Belichick and Reid to me are at the same level. It's 1 and 1A. And then you start going down the run. So you're the greatest coach of all time. You've got the best quarterback. You've got a generational quarterback where there may be a GOAT argument one day. We're way too early for that, but there may be a GOAT argument for Patrick Mahomes, because I don't think you can just talk about championships. Otherwise, Bill Russell's the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
But I think that there could be a conversation about that. I'm just going to kick back and enjoy it. And Kansas City Chiefs fans are now being doubted, or Kansas City Chiefs are now being doubted. And believe me, outside of Nick Wright, you watch how many people are going to be on that Buffalo bandwagon again next year, or whatever team comes out of it. And Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, you watch how many people are going to be behind them. Look at all the people that are behind, cool Joe Burrow. Everybody wants to see, people want, this thing is, fans in the NFL, they want parity, but they also want to hate somebody. You can't hate the Patriots anymore. And I keep telling that to Bills fans. You can't hate the Patriots anymore. Kansas City's the team that people got to hate.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you. But here's the thing, too. When I saw when Brady's retirement announcement, which that's a whole nother thing you and I can get into, there was one fan base and there's one person, like you already mentioned, Rob Parker. And literally every other fan base seemed to be giving Brady's roses. Bills fans going on there saying that the home opener 2003 was their favorite moment with Tom. Like the Sam Roberts, I believe that's the guy's name. Interception return, D lineman for the Bills that same game where they won 33-0, but then guess who won 33-0 week 7? A theory I always have too is that the Patriots live rent free in the head of Bills Mafia. You can fight me on that, but I will stand by that take for as long as I live. And even though Buffalo was the favorite coming into the year, my Super Bowl pick was always the Kansas City Chiefs. This is going back to like July. Why? Because like you said, people are doubting Mahomes. And even too, when everyone's going, oh, but he doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Let's see what he does. I'm like, guys, it's still Patrick. Like, you have to know. Like, I know this from all the years when no one remember, like all those years too with Tom Brady, when everyone was going, like, 2018, for example, Kansas City. There was, I believe, Indianapolis was in the mix that year. The Chargers were really good that year. Baltimore was starting to come up. There was all these teams that were good, and then all of a sudden, it's like, guys, let's not forget New England. It's like even 2016 too. 2016, the year the Patriots had no business winning. Remember, Brady suspended first 4 games of the year. What happened? They went 14-2. They ran through the Houston Texans. They ran through the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they pulled off the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, in sports history. Now, I know Minnesota did what Minnesota did about a month ago, but that's still not, you can't compare the two. But as it goes for the Chiefs, that's why, I know, you and I aren't Chiefs fans. It's just, I figured, hey, because Chiefs fans, I now that I know Arrowhead abroad, I can hopefully get to talk to him. You can talk to, we can talk about the Chiefs now, mainly because of your writings. Because I saw your thing about the Burrowhead disrespect. I know that was just a silly little joke, but I loved how the Chiefs handled it. The Travis Kelce's WWF style promo, calling the mayor a jabroni and to shut his mouth and know his role, that just hit home with me. But when it comes down to it, you're right. In the NFL, in sports in general, everyone looks for the villain. I don't know why they do it, but you do it. It's like LeBron. LeBron ripped my heart out 3 years in a row as a Raptors fan. But at the same time, too, you have to know that, hell, tonight, maybe in about an hour from now, there's a chance he becomes the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. And he's going to get his flowers, and you have to respect things like that. It's like Ovechkin right now.
Do you know how many people wasted their opportunity to watch a generational player because all they wanted to do was hate on LeBron James?
Yeah.
I grew up in a time that I got to watch Michael Jordan and LeBron James play basketball. You know what I mean? And so many people wasted Ovechkin's a prime one. So I used to cheer. As you know, I'm not a hockey guy anymore, but I used to be a hockey guy. I became an Ovechkin fan just to rebel against Crosby, because everybody was so on Sidney Crosby's D that they hated Ovechkin, and I became a big Ovechkin fan. Now, as an older guy, I kind of sit back and just appreciate the two of them.
With Ovechkin, I saw when he scored that unbelievable goal against Phoenix, I was 12, and from then on, I was an Alex Ovechkin fan, and then I was always kind of the same way against Crosby, but then Crosby won an Olympic gold medal in Vancouver, and that changed a lot of things for me. So it's even with soccer, too, how I feel like it's a little different, but how people kind of never got to see the chance of Ronaldo, or even making fun of him after when he was crying after Portugal lost in the World Cup this year. But look, you got to appreciate it. And then we got to see Messi win the World Cup, no matter how much salt they wanted to get in the way of that. So it's just one of those things where,
again, we got to watch 2 generational players battle it out against each other because they played a lot of their careers in Spain against each other. I know Ronaldo had his run with Manchester United, but you again, right? And I'm guilty of it. I was guilty of hating Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Like I wasted as a soccer fan my time to appreciate it because I've started appreciating him since he's older. I'm like, I'm looking at all these English fans like defending Manchester United, and I'm like, F Man you. You know what I mean? Like they did it to Bastian Schweinsteiger when he was older. Now they're doing it to Ronaldo. Like it's like they know how to take these veteran players who can be an impact on their team and just completely crush them and kill them when they get there. But yeah, no, we wasted so much time hating on guys when you should just appreciate just how talented they really are.
It's like how people with Tom, where everyone likes to find excuses, where I think there are people out there that literally find an excuse for every Super Bowl where it's like, oh, but they did this, or oh, it's because of this. It's like, even I remember, I'll never forget this. It was about a month after the Patriots had beaten the Seahawks, and I basically that year, I'll admit, I went cuckoo on the Patriots shop buying merchandise right away, and I bought a hoodie, and I was wearing that hoodie, and I was trying to get into a bar, and the bouncer was basically tearing me to shreds because he's just like, fuck the Patriots. He was one of those like, fuck the Patriots, I hate them. Basically saying, you guys didn't win this game. Seattle lost that game. That is something that I hate. Like even this Sunday, if Philadelphia wins, which I'm going to get your pick before we get out of here, you don't have to give it right now. But I hate when people say this too, where they're like, oh, this team didn't win this game. This other team lost that game. I'm just like, I just don't appreciate when people like, they'll make an excuse for something where it's just like, just be upfront, look, whatever happened. The only thing I'll say that's kind of cool with this year, though, is I know everyone's saying the joke of the winner Sunday will have more wins in that stadium than the Arizona Cardinals did. But if the Kansas City Chiefs were to win this game on Sunday, they will have started their season with a win in Arizona, and they'll have ended their season with a win in Arizona. So that's one really cool way to look at this.
Yeah, and to hit on your point about the whole, they didn't lose, they lost, and blah blah blah. But we do that all the time as fans too, right? Like when the Patriots offense scores a touchdown, we have a great offense. When the other team scores a touchdown, our defense is playing like crap.
Yeah.
We can't acknowledge that, hey, maybe the other team's offense is just better than our defense. Maybe it has nothing to do with the scheming, has nothing to do with the players, has nothing to do with the play calling. The other team is just better. But we always got to turn around, like if the offense can't score, it's the offense's fault. The other team's defense can't be the problem. Or if the defense can't make a stop, it can't be because the other team's offense is good enough. It has to be our defense is bad. That's just like, again, we're fans. Fans is short for fanatic, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to come out and you're going to have stupid takes. I think one of my concerns is, Griff, I know you brought me on for my takes. I know you did. You brought me on. You wanted me to drop something hot. I'll have a hot one for you right now because
100%.
I got a little bit of a beef going on with somebody right now. They know who they are. I won't say their name because I refuse to give them any sort of attention that they're trying to get out of me right now. But I will say this because they'll know I'm speaking about them. And I'm also going to talk about it on Who's Got Next without saying their name because I won't give them the attention. But I want them to know I'm talking about them. When you are a fan content creator like me, like Griff, like all the sports guys on Crier Media, when you are a fan content creator, you are not a reporter. When you come at it from, I have a podcast and I'm going to give my opinion on the New England Patriots or on the Buffalo Bills, or you write for certain publications like Fansided, and Griff, I'm not trying to put it on you. I have a big beef with Fansided and a lot of those writers on Fansided. Not all of them. A couple of them are okay. I need to explain to you something. It's called Fansided because it's for fans. It's for fans to write blogs. And I put a tweet out the other day that basically said, I'm a personality on Crier Media. I have a blog and a podcast where I talk about sports as a fan and have fan takes, and people need to start learning what our role is as sports content creators. So I bring this back because I'm seeing a lot of these fan reporters who aren't reporters, by the way. They have no sources. They have no connection to the team. They're fans like you and I. We may talk to the reporters, but you and I, we talk about the news. We don't report the news. We talk about the news that everybody's already knows. It's not like we're breaking anything. Here's what I'm going to tell them, and I'm going to tell all the other fans. We are fanatics, and we have stupid takes. I have stupid takes. We have emotional takes. We say things that don't make sense because we are fans. However, when you can take a step back, when you can smell the roses, when you can breathe a little bit, look around the sportscape in front of you and appreciates. And I know we name the names, but I want to just put out that in our lifetime, we got to watch Sidney Crosby,
Yes.
Alexander Ovechkin, Connor McDavid, Lionel Messi,
Yes.
Cristiano Ronaldo, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes. I'll even throw Josh Allen in the mix. We got to watch Serena Williams, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. And I'm going to Djokovic. We got to watch Derek Jeter. We got to watch Ken Griffey Jr.
David Ortiz.
We got to watch Alex Rodriguez. I don't care. I know you don't have to like him personally, but there was a time that he was the most electric player in baseball. And a lot of people, Griff, missed all of it because they were too busy hating.
That's like the perfect. You could not have put that better myself. Like, I could not have said that's better myself. Well, you got me mixing up my words here. Okay, so I brought you. Look, I love talking to you. You do bring the heat every time you come on, but that's why I was saying in the intro where I'm like, when it's Super Bowl week, you got to bring the big guns out for this because I'm trying to pump out as much content as I can. As you know, your Who's Got Next, my YWC Football Talk. We're just trying to build our brand with Crier Media. Your writings, my writings, which I have to start doing more of, which I actually have a WordPress literally open in my next tab in Google Chrome, so I got to do that. Send it off to our boy Rook to get approved because guess who used to approve my old writings? The man sitting right here with me used to approve my writing. So now it's a different guy. But you know what? We're here for ourselves. I do this because I like to talk the game. I do this because I one day was like, you know what? I always seem to be having weird debates with myself, talking to myself in my car like a psychopath. So why not do this on the internet and make friends on the internet at the same time? There's a lot of people that I talked with on here that I've never met in person before. Ray and I live about half an hour from each other. We've never been face to face before. So Crier, next time you see me, invite me to Niagara, and I'll send Ray up the Skywheel again.
Yeah. Okay, I'll throw you off the Skywheel. By the way, just so you know, my best podcasts have been me by myself driving in my car. Then I come home and try to replicate it, and I just can't.
Yeah, because sometimes your best thoughts are genuine and authentic, and that's what I felt with you when you're saying the stuff about greatness. And that's the biggest key to this game on Sunday is appreciate what you're witnessing on the field. Appreciate everything, whether it's Jalen Hurts, whether it's Patrick Mahomes. You know that Sunday you're going to be getting one hell of a football game. You just got to know. And also, here's the other thing, too, for everyone out there being like, oh, but this. And for everyone complaining about all the crappy Thursday night football games that you've witnessed this year. In about a month's time, you're going to be begging for that. So what I say is, no matter how bad a game is, no matter how good a game is, I'm guilty of saying games are boring. I am guilty of saying games are great. But then again, there's some games that are great. Appreciate what you have because when it's gone, you're going to miss it. And for about 200 plus days, we're going to be on here spitting takes and praying for football and know the XFL is not the same.
You want another hot take?
Absolutely.
So this is a personal take, just so you know.
All right.
My favorite month of the year is March because there's nothing going on with the National Football League. Like, soon as we get past the first week of free agency, it's just chill. I don't know about you, and you I'm exhausted by this point of the year. I probably enjoy the Super Bowl the least out of everybody. Even when the Patriots were in it, I was hosting Dear Pats Nation in its peak. We're talking the sportscaster days, 20,000 live views per stream. I'm talking the peak of my internet fame.
Yeah.
And I was covering them, or I was doing that show while they won the Super Bowl. And I was probably one of the most miserable Patriot fans in the world because by the time I get so revved up to get into the football season, with all the takes and the this and the arguments and the back and forth, that by the time the season starts, I'm tired. By the time the Super Bowl rolls around, I'm exhausted. I'll be honest with you. This is all me. I'm so happy that we have no more boring Thursday games. I'm so happy that it's coming to an end. I'll start getting the itch again in June. I'll start being okay, I'm ready. It's I want training camp to start. I want to start talking football. But I'm be honest with you. I'm giving you guys a really inside baseball here. for people who got to grind out a football season, I'm exhausted. I'm so happy the Super Bowl's over because I told my wife, Griff, you're like my 5th podcast this week and it's Tuesday. You know what I mean? I'm doing a bunch more this week. I'm sure I'll get the call from Blundell. You know, and this is, you know, the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl is the busiest demand on my time. And my wife knew it. My wife said to me like 2 weeks ago, she's like, all right, like we watched the AFC Championship game. She's like, okay, next is the Super Bowl, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, so I'm not going to see you for the next couple of weeks. I'm like, you got it, babe.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. But I agree with you, but in the sense too, I've become a bit of a draft junkie. So I feel like right after this is done, it's, you know what, on to the draft, free agency. And this is my second podcast today. I know it's not the same as yours, but like that's because what I'm trying to do right now is grind out content, because I remember last year, the last time you were on here, actually, as yours truly was developing COVID, was talking about trying to get to, I think it was 200 episodes before the season started, which I failed at miserably, but I'm here now. This is episode number 213. And my goal for next season is to be at 250 by kickoff. That's only another 37 episodes between now and the beginning of September. So we'll see what happens. But the way I like to structure it with football is, you know what? Hey, after this is going to be a big week. This is a 3 podcast week. Usually I do 2 a week. And now it's 3 a week. This is 3 a week because I want, like I said, even with this, how we were talking about the Chiefs. I had Eagles last week. I'm trying to pump in more Patriots content because, like we say, we're a fan of the Patriots. Like, even a guy I play hockey with was like found out I had a football podcast I was telling him about. He's like, your podcast is good besides talking Patriots. And I'm like, I basically referenced like how Toronto Sports Radio, yeah, they'll talk about every team, but guess what team they're going to focus on the most? The Leafs. So it's the same thing with you and I. We'll talk about all 32 teams. The team we're going to focus on the most is a team that we drive. Well, right now, fucking drives us mental. Hopefully that changes in 2023. But you know what? I say the NFL is that like machine that never ends. But at the same time, too, I completely agree with you. When the season's done, the podcast schedule, it's not as tedious. You're not like, oh, I got to get this in before Thursday. I got to get this in before this game. I got to record here while the news is still fresh. Obviously, there's breaking news, but I know, like, hey, if I'm at work and news breaks at 11 o'clock on a Monday, I know that, hey, if I talk about it Tuesday night, it's still going to be fresh and people are still going to care about it. So that's how I view things.
Yeah, the off season's way slower that you can revisit stories and you can have those conversations.
You can even look ahead too.
Yeah, where during the season, man, like if you don't hit it, it could be dead by that night, let alone, you know, that afternoon. Something happens and you're just exhausted. I want to say that my content changed in 2021 was probably my big switch from more of, well, I don't just talk about sports anymore. Like I talk about everything now. I do talk about sports, but I'm like a dude show. When people are like, how do you explain your show? I'm like, I'm just a dude. You know, like I'm just a dude like that. Other dudes on, girls on, whatever. We just talk shit and have fun. But you know, it's I was so exhausted, especially the COVID year.
Yeah.
Because that was really the year I really got invested into the draft. Again, it was my sportscaster time, got heavily invested into the draft, heavily invested in a bunch of stuff. They paired Connor and I up. We take off. We become the featured podcast. We are the #1 show on Sportscaster before they fired us. And, you know, we're killing it in April of 2020 when there's no sports on.
Yep.
And so we're just talking draft and we're hitting every little minutia and story that's on the planet. And I was so exhausted by the time 2021 rolled around. I want to say September 2021 was when the Dean Blundell Network first reached out to me. And, you know, I started with them and I believe either the end of October, beginning of November. I started with the Blundell Network, and you know they at that time were a little bit more of rougher around the edges, and we could be a little bit more loose, and I could be a little bit more me, if you know what I mean. And I think that really changed my approach to things, and I've really stopped caring about the dude. I host a draft party every year. I didn't even know a single player that was being drafted. Like, the guys around me did. So they were giving all the updates. I was just having fun. I was just like, oh, look at that. Oh, Cole Strange. And everybody got mad about Cole Strange. So I was like, yeah, fuck Cole Strange. Like it's I've taken such a different, just like relaxed approach to the off season. Race Sports Rant was a giant mistake. That's what honestly, for your fan base that does know who I am, I assume we do share somewhat of a fan base, that we will have some crossover. I went from the director of sports, the Dean Blundell network, to going hot and heavy. I was supposed to carry on with Cryer and be one of the senior managers. And then I kind of just disappeared in November. You're getting the exclusive now. I didn't even talk about this on my podcast. Like, this has been the exclusive. I disappeared in November and December. Nobody knew where I was. I made no Twitter announcement. I stopped doing podcasts. The other boys picked up the show for me. I just came back in January. You know what I mean? Like, I've been out of commission for 2 months, and I'm going to be open up to everybody is I burnt out. I was burning the candle from both ends. I have a full-time job, and I was burning the candle from both ends. And after 5 years of doing that, it finally caught up to me, and I burnt out, and I stepped down as the sports director. I had a conversation with Dean. By the way, shout out to Dean and Chris, the head honchos of Cryer Media. They were so supportive. They're like, hey, no worries, man. We still want you to be a part of the network. We know you don't want to do the director job anymore. We got somebody else we can give it to. And then you take as much time as you want. And I literally just Chris just told me rest and take the time. And I reached out to him in January, and I'm like, I'm ready to come back. And they're like, all right, boom, you want to come to Niagara this weekend? And we jumped right back into the mix. That weekend in Niagara was my first weekend back. I literally put out the I'm Back blog on Friday, and Saturday I was in Niagara doing the remote with them. So Griff, my advice to you live on air for your audience and anybody else who wants to be a podcaster, and I'm not Colin Cowherd, I'm not Jake Paul and Logan Paul, I'm not Mr. Beast. Like I'm a 20,000 follower guy. I got 44,000 on Newsbreak. Like I'm modest compared to, right?
Yes,
but big enough that I make money doing this and live comfortably because of it. I'm gonna tell you something, man. It's so I love that you want to pump out the content. It's so great. Just make sure you do it for you. And I always said when it stopped being fun, I was going to stop doing this, and it stopped being fun. And all I did was increase my workload. You know what I mean? So the 2 months off was fantastic. I learned, Griff, nobody forgets who you are when you come back. They all know who you are. They're actually excited when you come back. Don't exhaust yourself. I know your audience wants to hear you, but your audience would rather hear you once a week than not have you for 2 months like my audience lost me.
I completely agree with you. Like, mental burnout is a huge thing. Like, even how I'll be honest, I'll kind of be honest with you guys for a second here, because I wasn't sure yet, but I was supposed to record this episode with Ray. So it's Tuesday night right now, and for you guys to know, Andy McNamara and I spoke yesterday. We were supposed to record both on Monday, but there was something inside of me that just wasn't having a good day. I wasn't feeling it. Wasn't there mentally. And I reached out to the two of them and I said, look, I'm just not feeling it. There's just something inside me that's not right. I was just having an off day. And they both understood. And today I recorded. It's Tuesday. I banged out 2 episodes. The energy was there. Like, basically, it's one of those things where it's like I record when that's the thing. That's the beauty about when I do it. I find people, we record when I want. But at the same time, too, look, a break is something I take. So basically, what I'll probably do now is after the Super Bowl, we'll talk, and then probably take a look, and then probably go to maybe once a week or once every couple weeks, depending on news or what happens. And then free agency will come, and then the draft, and then that'll pick up. And then after that, schedule release. And then after the schedule releases, maybe bank a couple episodes for fun. But last year, I took a break for about 6 weeks, and it was worth it. I basically took off from the beginning of June until training camp, because that's when nothing really happens in the NFL unless you're getting arrested, and I know people will come at me for that statement, but it is 100% true. And you know what? It's one of those things where, you know what, you're 100% right. You can't burn yourself out with anything in life. You have to look at this from the perspective of, beyond being a person in front of a camera hosting a podcast or listening, if for you folks listening on my fancy new microphone, but you have to look out for yourself. And that is something I completely agree with. I didn't realize, I knew that you had I know you have your other job. Like, it's like me. I have 2 jobs. I have a full-time job, and then I have this that I do on the side, apart from my writings, and also now this podcast, which is associated with Cryer. So you got to look at it too, where everyone in life, look out for yourself and just remember, at the end of the day, you're your harshest critic, because at the end of the day, you know that, hey, if I'm not going to give my best, sometimes it's just good to step away for a little bit. I completely agree with everything you said.
I also want to thank Griff because he wouldn't say this out loud. I'm a lot to handle, so if you're not mentally ready for me, like so I totally get it, dude. Like
Yeah.
you have to be mentally ready to have me on as a guest. I totally get that.
Oh, I love it. But one last question I had for you, unless we want to go down the Lego rabbit hole. You're on here. It's a week of the Super Bowl. I've been asking everyone who's come on here leading up to this. Philadelphia versus the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, that is. Who does Ray Rauth have winning Super Bowl 57 on Sunday?
Griff, I'm gonna cop out on you, man, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I can't because I'm saving it for my podcast.
Okay.
I have to. The four of us are gonna be on there, so I can't do it. But I'll put it this way to you. Do you want an honest answer right now?
Yes.
I don't know. That's why I'm hoping by tomorrow night I have an answer. And I'll give you my explanation at least, okay? You've got the Philadelphia Eagles, and people who are much smarter than me have told me that is probably the best roster in the NFL. You've got a solid offensive line, a solid defense, a solid wide receiver core, a solid quarterback, and a good coaching staff. So logic tells you probably want to go with the team that has the best roster in the NFL. But let's go back to what we just talked about. I've heard this story before. I've heard about these great rosters, but I've also watched one of the greatest head coaches of all time play with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and them win games that they're not supposed to win. The Seattle Seahawks had a way better roster than the New England Patriots, but you don't bet against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I believe, Griff, you want to talk about legacies. This is a hot take.
Yes.
You don't bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Like, those two guys are at that level now, in my mind. You've got one of the greatest coaches and you've got the best quarterback in the game today. And you can't bet against them. So I'm torn, to be real with you. People have been asking me at work off the record and been like, I know you're waiting for your podcast, but like, who am I going to tell? I'm a nobody. And I'm looking at them going like, honestly, when I blurred out who I'm taking Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on the Crier YouTube channel or the Crier Media page at the Crier Media at 7 p.m. for who's got next, when I blurt out my answer, that's going to be my answer. And I'm not doing this whole setup because I'm trying to push people to my show. I'm 100% serious with you right now. I don't know. And I'm going to probably make the decision on the spot of who I'm going to go with, because this is the most I have struggled. Usually by opening day, I have the winner in my head. I have no idea, Griff. I'm hoping for one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, because I think it actually, on paper, this could be, because you're talking about, I'm going to make a big statement for all your Patriots fans and you out there. Not only do you have the greatest coach and greatest quarterback of all time, you have the greatest tight end to ever play the game playing for the Kansas City Chiefs too. And I'm sorry, I love Gronk, but what I've seen Travis Kelce do with consistency the last 7 years, I don't know how you can argue. Maybe if Gronk stayed healthy his whole career, we'd be having a different conversation, but you can't watch what he's done for 7 years and argue that he's not top of the heap. You know what I mean? Like, he eclipses every single tight end's numbers. I don't know, Griff. I don't know who to pick.
You know what? It's all good. I completely understand. The one thing I think we both can agree upon, though, is that Donna Kelsey will be a winner on Sunday night, regardless.
I think she's going to be a loser.
Oh.
Remember when the two Harbaugh brothers were faced off or were coaching against each other?
Ironically, 10 years ago, and now brothers are facing off in the game. Yes.
And they talked to the parents and they said, who did they after? And they said, did you go celebrate with John, right? John's Baltimore. Yeah.
Yes.
They said, no, we went and consoled the Michigan coach, Jim Harbaugh. We went with Jim and his family. We were heartbroken for Jim. That's what they said. Like, they couldn't even be happy for their son because they were so heartbroken for the other one. So I think she could be a loser, because you're going to be happy for your son, but your other one's gonna be Dallas. The only difference is they both won a Super Bowl, so
Yes.
that might be the difference. Listen, I love both those guys' personalities. I think they're hilarious. I think they're funny. I love the wrestling analogy. I love the
They have a great podcast.
Burrowhead my ass.
Yeah.
I just shout out to the Kelsey family. Congratulations on just being what appears to be just solid human beings in life.
That's the other thing too. So, and then even it's hilarious because Jason's wife is very, very pregnant right now, and like they're bringing their OBGYN to the Super Bowl because she's due like I think any week now. So Jason could very well be going from there to a hospital within the Phoenix area. But you know what? I'm going to tell you this.
Wasn't there a Patriot that happened to that he ran?
It was someone on the Rams last year.
Or so was it the Rams? They ran. Yeah, it was the Rams. He ran straight from
the field to the hospital.
Was it Jalen Ramsey? No, it wasn't Jalen Ramsey. I know who
Van
was
Jefferson.
Jefferson. Yeah, Jefferson didn't even celebrate. He went straight from the game, straight to the hospital because his wife was giving birth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the worst way to leave a stadium. I still put that on Mark Wahlberg in Super Bowl 51. But you know what? I appreciate everything that you said and how honest and candid you are. Because sometimes I know when you come on here, you bring the action, you bring the smoke, you bring the rants, you bring the takes. But you know what? I like the fact that you don't know and that you're just rooting for a good football game. You're not being one of those guys where you're like, I hope both teams win. No, it's just us as football fans. What we ask for is 60 minutes of hard pounding action. And you know what? I appreciate that answer because sometimes, you know what? Honesty is the best. Not sometimes, all the time. Honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, man. No, I'm being, yeah. And again, if you guys want my answer, tune into my podcast and just know whoever I pick, I'm lying. I just, and whoever I pick, put a big bet on the other team because I'm literally going to be coin flipping in my head. All right, here's a little exclusive. I'm probably leaning towards Kansas City. But I'm going to purposely go last tomorrow night and listen to everybody's argument. And Griff, it won't take much to persuade me to go to Philly. Like literally one argument could probably switch my mind. So it's going to be an interest for me. It's going to be very interesting to see who I end up with. And again, there's like 4 players on Kansas City against an entire great roster, but 2 of those guys happen to be the best at their craft right now.
That's just the thing. At the end of the day, I saying this to people. I'm like, okay, I was literally talking about this last night at my men's league hockey game. Philadelphia, better team all over. But when it comes down to the position that matters the most, the quarterback, who are you putting your money on? 15. The only thing I'll say is that if Patrick Mahomes does win MVP Thursday night, that's where I'm going to be. That's where I will put a sizable wager on Philly just because the person who usually wins MVP does not win the Super Bowl. That's the only thing. That's the only thing.
It's a curse. It's the MVP curse. Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. I mean, you go down the line. It was the curse. Hey, since we're on the Super Bowl, can I ask you a question? I know it's your show. I know you got to wrap up. And I'm just going to cut you off quickly. My winner's coming tomorrow night on my podcast as I'll be recording one last episode before the Super Bowl. It'd be Thursday, but it's my dad's birthday on Thursday, and sometimes family comes first. But go on. All right, so you can get Griff's there. Okay, so I know you've been trying to wrap it up for the last 10 minutes, and
that's fine.
But I'm going to ask you one question. And I don't even want a big explanation from you. I'm totally taking over your show. I don't even want a big explanation from you. I just want a yes or no. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
This is a thing that I've been struggling with for years because, look, am I salty towards the guy? Yes. Is he hilarious? Yes. But you know what? At the end of the day, there are 2 things that are going to get him in Canton. His rings and his name. If Joe Flacco had the resume of Eli Manning, no. Because there is that name attached to him, he will be getting in the Hall of Fame.
You play football to win championships.
Yeah.
That's all I say to people. You play football to win championships. You went with 2 terrible Giants teams and beat 2 fantastic Patriot teams, including the 18-0 New England Patriots. I think if Flacco did what Eli did, he would be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think you look at Flacco's Super Bowl and say, "We believe in Joe." That was Ray Lewis's show.
Oh, 1,000%.
I remember the "We believe in Eli," and to the Tyree catch, to the clutch moment at the end. And let's not forget, we all love to talk about clutch.
Mario Manningham too.
I was just going to say it. Yes, there are 2 great catches. He still had to get him in the end zone. And Eli Manning played clutch down the stretch of the Super Bowl. To me, he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. You play to win championships. That's right. I don't care how great your career is. Will Aaron Rodgers reflect back on his career and say, what a great career? Because if I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd reflect back and say, damn, I left a lot of Super Bowls on the table.
2 championships in 30 years is the Green Bay Packers. Actually, before we go, I have one that I want to give you. And this is a player that has never won, but he's someone that's in that conversation. Matt Ryan.
Not a chance. Not a chance. I think he's closer than some people might think. But to me, Matt Ryan is Tony Romo, plus an MVP year. I think they're great fantasy quarterbacks. I think that there was a lot of stability with the two. I also believe that some of the misses when they didn't get to Super Bowls was because of Matt Ryan's poor play in the playoffs. And even that collapse, as much as that's Shanahan's fault, Matt Ryan, you can't take a sack in that situation, because if you don't take the sack, your team kicks a field goal and you win the championship. And I'm not talking, I'm talking the Trey Flowers sack.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that Matt Ryan's, no, you play to win. If he would have won a ring, we could have had a little bit of a discussion. Let's also not forget that guy played with one of the best receivers of his generation, in Julio Jones.
Roddy White too, Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah. No, I don't think he is. And I know people are going to be like, well, how could you say Eli and not Manning? And I know that Super Bowls aren't a quarterback stat, but they kind of are. You play to win championships. There's not a lot of Trent Dilfers out there that you win the Super Bowl despite your quarterback. Eli Manning was one of the top 2 reasons why they went to the Super Bowls and won their Super Bowls. I don't care what he did the rest of his career. He played in New York. He played in that pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan played in Atlanta. There's not as much pressure to play in Atlanta. No, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
I just wanted to ask that just because Matt Ryan's always been the guy. Matt Stafford's the other one people debate, but I think ever since the Super Bowl last year, Matt Ryan has a spot in Canton. My thing with Matt Ryan,
Matthew Stafford has a spot in Canton. So, You want a real hot take? If this is what you're trying to do, if you're trying to excite an answer here, Matthew Stafford, and I've been on this train for years, man, even back when he was in Detroit, okay?
Oh, I know exactly where you're going.
Matthew Stafford is the most overrated quarterback of my generation. The defense of this guy, the way that I watched what Jared Goff did with his very team, and they looked better that next season than they did with Matthew Stafford. Give me the wide receivers that Matthew Stafford had, I would win a Super Bowl playing quarterback. No, I'm sorry. Matthew Stafford has been given every excuse in the book. Oh, it's all Detroit's fault. They blamed every coach.
It's like Derek Carr in Vegas.
That guy, he played with Megatron. He played with some of the greatest players in the world. You can't, I don't understand why people have this infatuation, and they've been doing this way before he went to LA. Oh, poor Matthew Stafford. Poor Matthew Stafford. No, you can't look at Matthew Stafford and say that he wasn't one of the problems in Detroit. He is a good quarterback and nothing more. People, they'll put him on this pedestal of like a top 5 quarterback at one time. I remember having this argument back on Sportscaster when I was a part of Sportscaster News, and they were trying to argue with me at that time that Matthew Stafford was a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and they're putting him up over guys like Dak Prescott and over other guys, and I was like, you guys are out of your minds. I said, if you think that like I don't understand what people's infatuation with Matt Stafford is. Maybe it's because he played for the City of Losers. I mean, maybe because he's a good golly gush guy. I mean, if Baker Mayfield was a really nice guy, I think we'd be having the same stupid conversation about him in Cleveland, because they'd be like, oh, poor Baker plays in Cleveland. That's why he can't win. Detroit had some good teams, man. Like they did. They underachieved. They had bad coaching, but I never watched Matthew Stafford pick that team up by their boots and go. Regan Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, I mean, almost got them in the playoffs this year, and they're going to be in the playoffs next year. That team's going to be better. That ain't a great team. It's a good team, but it's not a great team. I'm sorry. No, if Matthew Stafford goes in the Hall of Fame, I will never acknowledge the Hall of Fame ever again as a legitimate indicator of what somebody's career was.
I didn't realize you felt that way towards Matthew Stafford. I just think that a lot of people will look at his championship and then everything else and kind of be like, you know what, the throw the bone thing, because the Hall of Fame, and people say this
his championship, he played with one of the greatest offensive minds in the league. He brought a team that Jared Goff brought to the Super Bowl. He had the Triple Crown winner as his wide receiver. He had Odell Beckham Jr. He had
hell of a defense.
He had a great defense. He had a great tight end. He had a great running game. I mean, he played with Aaron Donald, who you want to talk about the GOAT, I think is the GOAT of football players. And, you played on that team. The Rams were not good because you showed up. You just stabilized the quarterback position. Matt Ryan would have won a Super Bowl with that team. Okay. What's his name? Phillip Rivers would have won a Super Bowl with that team. I think, want to hear a real one? Truthfully, Mark Sanchez would have won a Super Bowl with that team, because Mark Sanchez wasn't a bad quarterback. He was an okay to good quarterback. That's all Matthew Stafford is. You watch Matthew Stafford do the same stupid stuff as Mark Sanchez. We're like, oh, but he plays for Detroit, so it's okay when he does it. No, I'm sorry, dude. You've hit a nerve with me. I am such a Matthew Stafford hater. I don't understand why I had to listen to people trash Tom Brady and then listen to the same people defend Matthew Stafford week in and week out, when I'm like, he's a okay to good quarterback, nothing more.
Oh my! Tell us how you really feel, Ray Rauth.
There you go. See, you were trying to get this out of me the whole show, but you weren't leading me. You finally hit me with to get it out of me.
Oh, but my thing with the Hall, the only thing I want to go back and say quickly is that there's two teams from the early 2000s that it was all defense, and that was simply the 2000 Ravens and the 2002 Buccaneers. I think if you were to go into the street today and ask anyone besides Bucs fans who was the quarterback for that team, no one would be able to tell you that it's Brad Johnson. People might be able to tell you, hey, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, etc. But that's just another take for there. My only thing with the Hall of Fame is I think you need to do like the Hall of Fame becomes sometimes the Hall of pretty good. You'll see that with some sports where like guys get in where, maybe they shouldn't, or there's some guys who don't get in that should. So we have to see what happens, like the 2023 class. And I'll say this again until I'm blue in the face. But my big take is why Rodney Harrison is not a Hall of Famer yet. I think that man,
because it's all politics. And listen, I already don't respect the Hockey Hall of Fame. I already don't respect the Baseball Hall of Fame.
That one's the worst. That one, the writers gatekeep it. It's terrible.
No, it's awful. It's terrible. I hate the secretness of the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think moments matter, and Paul Henderson should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Baseball Hall of Fame, Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa are all Hall of Famers. Alex Rodriguez, Jose Canseco, they're all Hall of Famers. The Baseball Writers Association America. I have had it out with a couple of these guys on Twitter, and I've just called them out for their BS. I have no respect for that. Canton, and I don't know really anything about the NBA or the Basketball Hall of Fame, so I'm not going to comment on that.
I don't really know much either.
But Canton is like my last true hope for like a true Hall of Fame. And I think that, to me, you either needed to have a spectacular career like a Dan Marino, where championships don't matter, or you had to be a contributor, not present like Matthew Stafford, but a contributor like an Eli Manning to championships, or a Julian Edelman, whose regular season was okay to good, but what he did in the playoffs, I think, is good enough to be a Hall of Famer because, again, the contributions to what you bring to multiple championships, I think that, to me, that then puts you on. Like, for instance,
can I actually give you a good take of person with why championships put you in there versus why no championships don't?
yes.
So there is a guy on the New England Patriots. We don't know if he's going to retire or not, but when he does, he's going to Canton. That player's name, you might ask, is Matthew Slater. 3 championships, 12 Pro Bowls, one of the best special teams players to ever do it. And then on the flip side of the coin, you have Steve Tasker, someone who Bills fans have been clamoring for years to get into the Hall of Fame. Someone came on this pod, I believe it was McGarvin. If you guys check him out at Patriots POV, you all know him. That we were talking about this, and we said that Matthew Slater is going to get in over Tasker because of rings.
Yep. And I think pound for pound, Matthew Slater's better than Tasker. I'm going to be honest with you. And that's not me being an arrogant Patriots fan. However, I believe that Tasker should get in before Matthew Slater. I really do. I think it'd be an injustice to put Matthew Slater in the Hall of Fame before you put in Tasker, because there's going to be other positional players who played more than special teams that are going to miss out because of it. But I want to, it was already like 5 years ago. I remember we were having this conversation, and because they had gone around and talked to a bunch of NFL players. I think it was at NFL Honors, and there was NFL, like big name NFL players. I couldn't name a single one right now, but there was big name NFL players who referred to Matthew Slater as a generational player. And when you, by your peers, are recognized as a generational player, that makes you a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning, I think, to me, they did a survey and they asked like Kurt Warner, they asked a bunch of like Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, Montana, and they asked a bunch of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and I think 9 out of the 10 all said yes, Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. So I'm looking at 10 bona fide Hall of Fame quarterbacks saying yes, Eli Manning, and they gave the reasonings that I gave. You know what I mean? Because of his contributions to the Super Bowls. Because Matthew Stafford, you were present for the Super Bowl. Eli Manning was a contributor to the Super Bowl. And I think when your peers stand up and call you generational, or your peers in the Hall of Fame stand up and say, yes, he is a Hall of Famer, they know more than you and I, Griff. Yes. You know what I mean? I know fans like to be like, oh, just because I wasn't good enough for the NFL doesn't mean I don't. No, you don't understand. You don't understand the pressure of playing on Sunday. You don't understand the pressure of having to face the media after a game. I was an elite high school player. You know what I mean? Like I went, collegiate. Like I was an elite performing athlete. I don't even have a smidget of an idea what it's like to play in the Canadian Football League, let alone the NFL. So I am going to take what the guys who play day in and day out, I'm going to take what they take very, very seriously.
Exactly. The guys who go out there, the guys that bust their ass, the guys that, literally for not even a figure of speech, have put their lives on the line to play. You're going to trust the opinion of those men, not the guy who peaked in high school and who in his varsity jacket will go, you always see those, people making fun of. We're like, oh, I remember running the show here on Friday nights. I remember when I was the king of the hill. And they're complete losers now. Not those guys. Trust the guys, the 1% that make it to the NFL. Trust the guys who know the grind. Trust those men.
100%. You said it, man.
You know what? That's what I said, and that's what I said. But, folks, that's going to wrap it up here. Super Bowl preview show coming tomorrow night. This has been episode number 213. Ray, for all his info, guys, in the link below, including the link to the Crier Media YouTube channel. And while you're on Crier Media's website, guys, check out my work, check out Ray's work. I did some work because why? I don't like the Buffalo Bills, but I like the Buffalo Sabres, and they were a betting wagon of mine, so I wrote a bit about that. Ray writes about everything. I write about hockey betting, weirdly enough, and I talk football. That's just me. That's just what I do. But anyway, folks, have a great night, and Ray, enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Griff.